So thank you, Brussels, for your very interesting insights, Katerine and Janec. We go on with you guys over there, but first I would like to tell the audience how we will go on in this show now. First, we will have some question and answers with Brussels, and we have also a polling question. The first one, I will present the results to you. And then in this studio, we will go on with our speakers here. Everybody made a statement, and they will talk it to us. And later on, very in the end, we have final Q&A session, both with Brussels and with here Berlin. So I would like to present you, first of all, the Mentimeter first question, the results of it. May I please see it on the screen? Yeah, there we have it. So the question had been, what should be the first recovery priority for the EU food system? And A, with 23% answers, because I can't see the screen here now. It's the strengthening cross-border trade and travel relations inside the EU. And B, with 29%, it's building local and regional food security. C, the one you tickled the most, is ensuring the recovery is as green as possible. D, maintaining international trade flows with third countries. That was the lowest percentage with 6%, and other than that was 4%. So these are quite interesting results. Maybe, Janec, you could say something about this, about the poll results?
What should I say? First, I have calculated because I don't see the screen, by the way. I have calculated what was the green, and if I'm quick enough, it's 39.
At 39, it's the ensuring the recovery is as green as possible. That was the first priority.
Yes. No, I just want to tell you that I was teaching statistics and I'm quite quick. So anyway, I'm happy with the result, because I think the most important thing which we have to do at this moment is actually understand that we are simultaneously facing three crises. Two are acute. This is the economic and the health crisis, and one is actually chronic, which was existing for quite a long time, and it's connected with our socio-ecological system, socio-economic system. And it is utmost important that when we release a lot of money, when we have the readiness of the governments and the amount which is necessary on the table, that we don't miss this opportunity. I think it's essential.
Thank you. I have a question by Tiglet Aslan to Katerine. It's coming to you. I would like to ask Ms. Gisela Glanielle on what she thinks of the proposal in the Farm to Fork strategy to support emergence of new business models for carbon farming and finding ways to reward growers through public and private means, such as international carbon credit markets, for each ton of carbon they sequester.
So the Farm to Fork strategy, as well as the biodiversity strategy, which, and it's not by coincidence, have been published at the same time, I would say a week before, 10 days before, but it doesn't matter, than the recovery plan, precisely with the objective of making sure that, every euro that we are going to invest in the recovery and to make our economy more resilient will be linked to, the European Green Deal, so the ecological transition and the digital transition. So these two strategies represent a roadmap where we are going to mobilize and support the stakeholder of the food chain so that they develop, more sustainable farming practices, new business model, and what I would say, this new economy that we are looking for, which is basically how do you combine economy and environment, economy and social economy, and climate protection, so that you don't choose one or the other, but you find the way to combine all these essential elements. This is about sustainability. And so these two strategies are not the end of a process. They are indicating a couple of important targets, in particular in terms of the use of input in agriculture or the development of organic farming. And they will be supported by our Common Agricultural Policy, the new one, the one that we will start in a couple of weeks to negotiate, and discuss with member states and with the Parliament. And the CAP is going to provide the resources that we need to support the farmer, because we need to support the farmers, make sure that, they get supported in the change that they are making of their farming practices. And that's why we are also extremely happy of the fact that we have got extra resources for the CAP in the next multi-annual financial framework. Of course, that will need to be confirmed by the Council and the Parliament, but the Commission has recognized the importance, in particular, of increasing the second pillar, the rural development resources, to make sure that we provide farmers with appropriate resources so that they can transform their farming practices.
Thank you, Catherine. I got another question from the audience. It's from Aimantas Pranauskas from Lithuania. And I would like to ask the question, pass it over to Janets. The implementation of farm-to-fork and biodiversity strategies will inevitably increase food prices. Will food prices remain reasonable for consumers, and in the long run, will supplies remain available? So this is an interesting question. I think it also just leads from where Catherine was just talking about.
We all know that when it comes to environmental questions, and in particular natural capital, that the depletion of natural capital, unfortunately, it's in many cases not part of our cost structure. And I'm not talking here only about food, I'm talking about the whole economic system. And in whatever economic sector, you would pretty much come to the same conclusion. So it could come to that if we include those to the cost system, that this will influence on the prices of the products which we are consuming. In this case, of course, the food. On the other hand, of course, it's very important that the farmers would have conditions that they can have a decent life, which sometimes, as we today know, it's not the case. That's why we are forced basically also to provide the income contributions through the Common Agricultural Policy, which money would probably be better spent if it would be spent for organizing that for the transition to a more sustainable agriculture. So I'm not saying that this is not a problem. On the contrary, I think it is a major problem if this would happen. But we would need to use the social related policies and tools to help those who would have maybe the problem with affording that. But going in the direction like we have done in the past, that in a way the environmental policies are sacrificed to the social policies, will not solve both questions. I think it's very important that this is taken into account and that all the measures are taken, but more from a clear social policies, that we, in a way, do not subsidize also, I would say, the rich people, or at least people who can easily afford to buy the food, but on the other hand, do not provide a clear answer to those who are in deep need, that they would get access to food.
Maybe you could do an example for how this could happen, like very concrete. Do you have an idea how this could happen to maybe pricing in the real cost, as somebody say? Mm-hmm. So you mentioned socializing the costs, but privatizing the profits. So do you have an idea? I mean, this is a very big question, I know, and many people working on stuff like that. But maybe you have giving a glimpse on it, please.
My point is very simple. If you use, of course, the policies which are today pushing the food prices down from a social reason, and it's a good reason, by the way, don't underestimate that, that means that to a large extent you are sacrificing also some environmental consequences. So if you would use income support for those who are in need to get access to food, so directly to the consumer, that would probably be much better than actually subsidizing everybody in the consumption chain. So I think, and also the second question, which is very important in that, is how actually the value which is created or the value which is spent by consumers, it's distributed and how much actually comes to the pockets of the farmers, which is again one of the critical problems. So I think that these are two problems which go into the root causes of why we are facing those problems today, which are linked to agriculture. And it's difficult to imagine that without really going depth into those questions, we would solve all the questions which are connected with agriculture. By the way, these are the questions which are connected to social policy. They are connected also with the whole food chain and so on. And it's difficult to imagine that not going broader than agriculture can provide us with convincing answers.
Thank you, Janec. Yeah, I think it's a very broad question, of course. On the one hand side, we have the consumers. On the other side, we have the producers. So, and if we could solve these problems, we would be just better off and nobody would be here, maybe. But yeah, thank you to Brussels for now. We will see each other again in the final Q&A session.